Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My name's James Gardiner. I'm the tech lead in the Admiral data warehouse team based in Cardiff. I've been in data for around about 20 years now, and I've been with Admiral for about 4. And I want to sort of tell you a little bit about Admiral's data journey. So, around about 4 years ago, Admiral decided to upgrade their policy management systems. Now, they were using a mainframe system before that, and a lot of the way they were getting data was basically connecting SAS to their source systems, using it a bit like an ETL tool, and pushing it into Excel, and then you got Excel spreadsheets flying around everywhere, etc., etc. So what they decided to do when they put the new system in, which was a system called Guidewire, was actually build their first data warehouse. But there's a few problems with this, because essentially the data warehouse delivery timelines were very much dictated by the source system delivery timelines. So they couldn't really build a proper data warehouse. And what they ended up building was very much, we call it tactical, but it was very much an ODS. So a copy of the source system, but with some history, okay? And then they still connected to that via SAS. Now, this has ended up not being very performant. It was delivered via Waterfall as well, which had its own problems. We put MicroStrategy on top of it, but there was little uptake on that because we had performance problems in MicroStrategy. As I said, most people were connecting via SAS. There's a lot of siloed reporting going on, multiple versions of the truth. The code base became incredibly complicated because we were building views on top of tables, on top of views, on top of views, and it just got completely out of hand. There was a lot of firefighting, so there wasn't much room for us to actually improve anything because we were just sorting out the business, making sure they got their data. Obviously, little or no governance because of those silos. So, around about 2.5, maybe 3 years ago, we sat down and said, right, we've got to address these problems. And we did a data review. And out of that data review came, right, we have to build a proper conformed data warehouse. Okay? Now, when we went back to our consultancy partners and things like that, they said, oh, well, first you've got to do some logical modeling, and then you've got to physicalize it, etc., etc., etc. So we tried to do that, and we tried months to actually get some value into our new data warehouse, but it proved very difficult, okay? It was very time-consuming, the logical and physical modeling, and it didn't adapt well to change. Now, Admiral's a very agile company, okay? And they want things changed at a flip of a hat. Very reactive, okay? Logical, physical modeling just didn't suit us, okay? We had a lot of incorrect designs that were picked up late. Deployments were painful. We were handwriting all this code that we take a while to deliver it, and the testing timelines were just squeezed continually. Documentation was out of date, and this is a key one, badly translated specs. So we had some beautiful, lovely looking specification documents, but we deliver it and then the business would go, no, that's not what I wanted. It's a big problem. A lack of useful development tools, and the developers were basically out of touch with what the business wanted. So, we want to build a proper model, but how do we do that? So, we knew that the logical physical modeling wasn't working for a fast-changing business. We know we needed to get the business more involved, and we needed to build quicker, so we thought, let's look at some automation tools. Now, we went through a process where we had Warescape involved. They came in and did a pilot for us, and it was a 6-week pilot, and we were incredibly impressed around the value that we could get out of that process, okay? but we still needed the business more involved. So what we decided to do, we decided to take our key business SMEs and basically put them in our Agile Scrum teams. Okay, that was one of the first steps. The second step is something called BEAM, okay, which stands for Business Event Analysis and Modeling. Essentially, who's you to the 7 W's when you're modeling data, you know, who, why, what, when, where, that sort of thing. We'd get the business in a room, lots of whiteboards, and essentially ask those questions and break things down into events, like a customer buys a product, an agent takes a call, and we'd ask those questions out of it, and out of that we had a conceptual model. We took that conceptual model and essentially we built it in a couple of days. It may be a rough and dirty prototype, but we built it that we could then play back to the business, and that was really important to us. So we were very impressed that we could do this that quickly with Warescape. So, just to sum up, this is what Warescape have done for us at the moment. Got rapid development, as I said. It's very quick and easy to actually build things. It's very easy to learn. Our teams on the floor now, they're all trained in Warescape, and they really do like the way. It's much better than hand coding. We get a very quick turnaround on deployments. Essentially, deployments are a click of a button. Sometimes it used to take us 2 weeks to actually to have a deployment package, the old method, because you'd have to go for testing and then someone would change it and then the deployment script would break, etc. With Warescape, a click, okay? We had technical documentation and mappings out of the box. Lineage out of the box, that's an important one, because in the old method, it was very difficult to see where our data was going and who was using it, okay? It was a lot easier to debug. This track back and forward functionality is a very important one for us. So in the old method, when we used to change something over here, we used to break about 10 things over here because there was no way for us to easily check what our dependencies were. This tool had it all in the box, so you can actually go, right, these are going to get affected. Guys, we need to do something about this as part of our release. Okay? It's very easy to schedule. Okay? Our first scheduling attempt was like a metadata scheduler in Teradata with Informatica, and it was just got messy. It used to break every time we deployed it. This was very easy to schedule, very easy to sort out. It generated a business glossary for us, which was excellent then to that into our BI. The key one, it enables agile delivery. That's a key thing for us. There's no way we could deliver value in sprints without this tool set. And another one, which I'll bring up later on, which is very important, it's database agnostic. It's compatible with multiple platforms. So not only are we using it to generate Teradata code, we've also got some SQL Server estate that we use for low-cost storage and things like that we actually push, get Warescape to push SQL code down onto that as well. And it's great because everyone knows the same tool set. So, saying that, there are some challenges, okay? We sped up the actual development parts of it, but what started to suffer was the testing. It was the unit testing, the deployments just got bigger and bigger, and also we needed mechanisms to monitor, tune, and improve. And I'm going to call one of my colleagues up, Aaran, who works in the data warehouse team, and he's going to go through how he managed to do the unit testing, automated deployments, and things like that. Aaran?
Awesome. Thank you very much, James. Right, hello everyone. My name's Aaran. I've been in the Admiral data warehouse now for about 4 years, and I've spent about 3 years of that working with Warescape since we've had it in the company. So as James said, using Warescape has allowed us to seriously speed up development quite considerably. But the only problem with speeding certain things up is you realize that bottlenecks happen elsewhere. And a lot of those bottlenecks we realized we could do something about, and a lot of it was to do with automation, taking those mundane tasks we do quite regularly and over and over and over again, and make them happen automatically. And again, Wayscape was the tool that allowed us to do this. So the couple of things that we noticed that were getting sort of stretched were, one, unit testing. So that first little bit of testing code that you do when you've done the development and you're doing very basic, simple checks. Again, this is something that developers do quite regularly, but as you're doing it again and again and again, it starts to suffer. Deployments we wanted to make simpler, and I'll get further into that in a little bit. And as well as just basic automated testing, so the actual functional testing that our testers then do. So unit test automation, this was quite a big one for us. We realized it was a bottleneck, and it was not being done as effectively as it could be. Like I said, unit testing is something done the same every single time, something basic, like does the table contain data? Are the primary index unique? Are the business keys unique? Are you collecting stats on tables? Things like that. They're basic, simple checks that you do on every bit of code, but because you're doing it over and over again, sometimes it you forget a step or something like that. And we realize this sort of stuff, why can't we just automate it? Why can't we just get that to run a single time in a day and actually do it all for us? We also realized if we can do that, why can't we link it with external applications? So we use JIRA to track our stories using Agile methodology. And we realized, can we connect it to JIRA so we can track a particular story and also attach unit testing to that? The biggest driver for us, though, is that we could use it by using Wayscape. So Wayscape is quite open in the way you can use it, and you can use it in ways that it might not necessarily be not advertised as such, but it might not know you can use it like it, which is quite a clever way to do it. So one of these ways that we got to automate the unit testing was using JIRA. Has this one got a... No, never mind. So when we've completed a task in JIRA, before that, when we're working on objects within Wayscape, we go into Wayscape and we tag every individual object with a JIRA number that we're working with. Something very simple to do, and it's something that all of our developers now do. Within Wayscape as well, we have a PowerShell script that regularly runs. It's on a scheduler, it's a relatively simple script, and it just runs every hour or so. Not so much on the weekends. After that, the script picks up any ticket that gets moved in JIRA. So with multiple different columns, when you move that ticket from the dev complete column and you move it over to start unit testing, our PowerShell script will pick that up and say, right, this needs to be unit tested. It then scrapes through the Wayscape metadata repository and picks up every object that is attached to that JIRA. It'll then basically do the unit tests queries that we've written for it. They're all kind of slightly changed in order to run because of the metadata repository, and it runs those unit tests on it. Things like I mentioned before, seeing if there's actually data in the table, seeing if the primary keys are unique, things like that. The PowerShell script then fills out all possible definitions are done. So all of that tricky little ticking boxes on your, what's it called now? On definitions are done. Basically saying, yes, I have checked this. Yes, I have made sure that everything is following camel case. Yes, I have made sure that this is in place and that is in place. It goes in and it fills out as much of that as it possibly can within JIRA, so everything's all in a simple place. It then logs all that results in a basic table, stores it on the database within the metadata repository, and sends an email off to the developer just to say it's all been done. So from that sort of 15-20 minutes for every story that a developer had to do is suddenly now just been automated. You just drag the column across, everything is done, and in the morning when you come in you realize, fantastic, the unit test has passed, you can go on to do a deployment. Deployments were another thing. Like James said, before us using Wayscape, deployment could take up to 2 weeks to create and actually deploy. By using Wayscape, we brought that down to a couple of minutes to do it. But we wanted it to be a little bit faster than that. We wanted to try to do it in seconds instead. So again, we realized that we could use Wayscape to do that. Wayscape has just a couple of, again, inbuilt batch scripts that allows you to create deployment applications and deploy deployment applications. And we thought, you know what, why not just wrap that up in a basic PowerShell and have it so you just select a particular JIRA number, you click a button, the PowerShell script will then scrape Warescape metadata repository, collect all objects that's needed, and deploy it into the environment you want it to be deployed into. So then deployments went from being a couple of minutes, again, you might do that 5 or 6 times a day, so the time adds up, to being just, you click a button, the deployment happens, which is a really great thing. The other thing that allowed us to, that we're looking into doing is taking this, because again, the deployment app's written in PowerShell, and add it to the JIRA automated unit test that we've done earlier. So when you move a JIRA ticket, not only will it go in, fill out any documentation, do the automated unit testing, it will also then deploy all of those objects into the environment you want it to deploy into. So overnight, you've basically just moved a ticket, and everything is done for you. All of this, luckily, is possible because the metadata repository within Warescape is kind of there for you to read from and to view. Some of the other things we've managed to do because of Warescape as well is testing automation. This is something we're still relatively new with and we're looking into, but we're looking at using other external tools such as Cucumber and Gherkin to leverage the metadata repository to write basically free text test cases. So the testers can write something like, I create these policies, and it creates those policies. That's sort of external to Warescape. And then write, I see if these policies exist in this fact table. So as James was mentioning before, Warescape has a brilliant lineage tool that allows you to see what tables happen before a particular fact. So again, from this tool, we can find out exactly what needs to be ran in order to do it. There's usually what loading tables need to be loaded, what data stores need to be loaded. And it'll do that. It'll then load those tables, it'll go through, and it'll write the queries to check if those policies exist in that particular table. Again, so this now means that our testers don't necessarily have to have an in-depth knowledge of exactly what landing tables, what data store tables, and the entire lineage of data. They can just write a simple test to see, do these policies exist? I'm now going to hand you over to my colleague Cara, who's going to talk to you a little bit more about monitoring, tuning, and some improvements we've done. Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron. Hi, I'm Cara. I've been a data warehouse developer at Admiral for just over 4 years now. So as the guy said, our development process was quickened so much by Warescape, eased by Warescape 2. We were also automating our testing and we were automating our deployments. So the only issue we were really getting was creating this amazing amount of objects and having to load those overnight in an ETL and getting those out in a timely manner for the business to use the next day. So what did we need to help us with the performance of all this? We needed to identify when we could schedule these objects, if they were affecting each other in the schedules overnight. We wanted to monitor any growth of the overnight ETL. We wanted to decrease ETL times by performance tuning, and we needed to look into which objects needed performance tuning more easily than we could already. And in order to do all of this, we needed to keep job history over a long period of time. So we were currently viewing all of this scheduler history in the Warescape Red scheduler, and this keeps we chose to keep a nice month's worth of history in there. So just enough so we could see what was going on, but not too much so that it was completely packed. And behind this lie the Warescape metadata views. So these views contain all the information you would ever want to know about the scheduler, about your jobs. So what we did was to bring all the information that we wanted to report on into a nice physical table. We'd run this overnight after the ETL every night, so we could keep history over a long period of time. And then we could push this table into MicroStrategy and create some really nice reports on that so we could see what was going on as devs, and especially for the on-call team, to help make the overnight ETL much more performant and come in earlier and earlier. So this is one of the reports that we created, just a basic report to show you. So you can see we've got the jobs that are due to run overnight every night. If you click into those, then it brings up the tasks that are going to run. It brings up what time they're started, how long they take, and you can view this over, however long a period that you've been keeping history for. And then this nice graph here shows a 6-month history of our ETL, And you can see we're a bit wobbly at first. We're going up and down. We're doing some performance tuning here and there. And then we get a nice steady sort of ETL time every night, which is just slowly growing. So what we wanted to do with this then was to click into some of the longer running nights and see what was happening, see exactly what tasks were running longer over the evenings, and we could performance tune those specific tasks then. So another great chart that we've been able to create from this is this job schedule Gantt chart, and this just tells us what time these jobs are running every night and on average how long do they take. So we can identify here that maybe this long running job early in the morning could be helped by moving this cluster of smaller jobs out further into the morning to give that long running job a chance to come in while it's running by itself. So we've been able to do all of this with the help of the Warescape metadata views. Thank you for listening. I'll hand you back over to James to summarise.
Thank you, Cara. Okay, so hopefully that's given you some insight about how we've used Warescape and woven a whole delivery process around the actual tool. I just wanted to summarize to say where next for us. Well, we're looking at a few things. Cloud is a big one. And I believe Warescape are going to heavily figure into that because obviously they've got things like Snowflake migration tools and things like that. So we'll definitely start looking at things like that. Master data management is another one that we're looking at. We've got a lot of spreadsheets with things in departments getting flung around, which really needs some control. So it's like, I think we'll start off with some light touch master data management, and we'll have a look at some tools for that. Live-like data is a problem. At the moment, we generate our own test data. We always have problems with that because of the little nuances in live data that trip us up all the time. So we're trying to create data sets. And as Aaran pointed out when he said about we're moving code using JIRA, what eventually we'd like to do is move that code with JIRA, load some live-like data into an environment, and then run a load of unit tests on it and standard tests and things like that. That's our goal, where we need to get to. And we're not far off, but we need to sort this out. And then last but not least, more automation. There's so much more that we can automate. And we're continually highlighting things that we can automate. And it's just getting that balance between what you've got to deliver and what you've actually got to work on to automate, because it's not always easy to do when a business is screaming out for value. But I hope that that helps and you've enjoyed that, and thank you very much.